Good evening. Thank you all for being with us. I'd like to call the September 17th, 2024 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order. Let's begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to announce that parking validation and bus passes are available for commission workshops and meetings. Anyone parking for this meeting or using the bus can pick up passes from security on their way out. That is valid for today only. I want to read the ethics reminder to the board. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which would have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on any matters that the county commissioners vote on at our meeting this evening. Okay, we come to the consent agenda. Commissioners, are there any questions about any items on the consent agenda? Do any members of the public have any questions about any of the items on the consent agenda? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion to adopt the consent agenda and to follow the remainder of the agenda as published with a couple of additions. First, under new business is consideration of the appointment of an interim tax assessor. And under board appointments, to include a discussion and potential consideration of adding one additional member to the ad hoc stakeholders committee on the STR draft ordinance.
And remove the budget amendment for the general fund for carry forwards.
Thank you. And to remove item 1 under new business, the budget amendments to the general fund, etc. All right. Is there a motion?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We come to public comment. And there's one person that has signed up for public comment. So I'm going to call on this person, and after they've spoken, if there's anybody else who would like to speak during public comment, there'll be an opportunity to do so. And you get 3 minutes for public comment. At the end of the 3 minutes, our clerk will raise her hand or something and say your time's up. And we do ask that you conclude your public comments once your time's up. We want to give everyone the same amount of time. So Stephanie Phillips, thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Commissioners. Valued Phillips family, fourth generation. Thank you for your service. Last genealogy class I attended titled Thank You, Know Who You Are, But Can You Prove It? A small treasure chest inlaid with gemstones belonging to my grandmother was displayed for the City Council of Asheville the other day. Some suggest it is a Biltmore artifact to represent the National Trust. Inside is a teacup monogrammed Mother. Reflective of the United Kingdom, I'm still married, research triangle, can stop studying abroad. Prior to 18, Officer Paul Quinn, Wheaton Glenmont Police Station, said I was targeted. Translates to National Security Classified. Daddy taught me the meaning of racketeering and pointed out that elevator service call the elevator in the Washington Monument does not fit the historical timeline. The more I study genealogy, hostilities increase. I've been working with and educated by civil servants my whole life. I've documented all I can with law enforcement as I've been instructed. I'm here to offer you help. Check my resume, long-term tenure, hospitality, Marriott 17 years with a community college instructor, many boards and committees, service organizations, and 2 decades of management staffing. The psychological warfare, near-life ending experiences, acts of intimidation I've experienced are draining, to say the least, and motivated by erasing my family's ancestry. Land developers are 40 years behind taking over our family farm to build a dam and reservoir. The 1923-26 extension southbound towards Asheville looks stalled, waiting to flow water to Asheville. We propose 2 smaller dams in different locations to provide water for agriculture during drought. We seek historical preservation and suggest the same for Madison and Buncombe County. Enact a temporary moratorium on new residential commercial building to thoroughly assess vacant commercial and residential property renovatable for small units. Consult with tunnels to towers. Consider employing wounded warriors comprising some of the future residents and security. Ready for my seat at family board table. Vote should be shared with me, my daughter, and my husband. Thank you for your consideration. The court system is jammed up. Sign the peace treaty and let's celebrate international law.
Thank you. All right, are there any other members of the public who would like to speak during public comment? All right. Got 2 items under good news. The first item is the 3CMA National Awards, and I think Lillian Grovis is going to address this item.
I'm multitasking. If I can get our members of CAPE who are here, I think I have a CAPE member who's also in the lobby. I know Cassie's here, Dan's here. We've got some folks who are out sick. Oh, there's Angelica, she appears. And we've got Catalina in the control. There's Catalina. And I think Zakia's in the lobby waiting to get in. But just wanted to give you an update on the 3CMA Awards, which is a big deal this year. More than 1,000 submissions were received by 3CMA, which is the national organization for city-county communicators. And super happy to report that we received 2 of those. This represents the best in government communications for more than 30 years. It honors programs that nationally have effectively engaged their constituents, like those here, and elevated our profession. More than I see Leonard in the hallway. There's Leonard. More than 1,100 entries in 38 categories were received. There's Rocio. And so we received the Award of Excellence for the documentary that we produced around the creative equity murals. And so this was a really cool way to celebrate the art that is going up in our community and that project. And here comes Zakia. Nick was a big driver behind that. Nick is not here today, working with our Strategic Partnerships Department on telling that story. And then we received a one-time event Savvy Award for the Community Reparations Summit, which every single person on our CAPE team touched, along with our partners at the City of Asheville and UNC Asheville, to pull off that event, which was a big, big day. And I really liked the judges' comments on this. There was great attention to detail and planning, and it appears to have been executed wonderfully. Kudos to your entire team. The event was relatively uncomplicated, which I disagree with. But the marketing team demonstrated exceptional skill in execution and tailored the event in a manner that effectively appealed to their key target audience. The organizational and executional proficiency was truly commendable, and that is due in part to these folks who you see before you, as well as other folks who couldn't make it here tonight and people who work remotely like our web admins. But big kudos to this team because that award is not easy to get. So way to go, y'all. I'm gonna go change the PowerPoint now to the next one.
All right, thanks, congratulations, great work. All right, next item under good news is the 2024 Youth Election Sticker Contest winner.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you. My name is Angelica Tyler with the Communications and Public Engagement team, and we're excited to share some good news with you tonight. If you recall, in 2022, we held an election sticker contest, and for young Buncombe artists, it was very popular. Polly Crutchfield accepted that award and won the contest. We are excited to launch that contest again for this year's presidential election. We announced our contest in May, and we received almost 70 total submissions. We formed a selection committee to narrow that down to a little bit more manageable top 10. Our selection committee was comprised of CAPE team members Jeremy Lett and Rocio Quintero, elections staff, including Director Corrine Duncan and Negi Fox, some members of the Board of Elections, and Anika Hussein of the Asheville Art Museum. Top 10 finalists were chosen by the committee, and we opened for public voting in May. And we had over 6,000 page views, so our youth artists had over 6,000 people view their work. And over 2,300 votes were cast. Our winner was 7th grader Maya Leroy, and she is here tonight. This is her winning design. And her sticker will be available at all of our polling places, including early voting, and in our 80 precincts on Election Day. Thank you. I'll now pass it off to Election Services Director Corrine Duncan to recognize a few of our finalists that are here tonight.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Corrine Duncan, your Election Services Director, and the Buncombe County Board of Elections Chair, Jake Quinn, is also with us tonight to celebrate with us. Thanks for giving us this time to share some happy news on National Voter Registration Day, no less. Perfect timing. One of the reasons that we hold this contest is to give youth a way to participate in elections and also demystify voting before they have to go exercise their right to vote later in life. CAPE helped us reach a wider audience through partnership with the Buncombe County Libraries and events like the 4th of July celebration at Lake Julian. We really did have great participation this go around, and it was heartwarming to interact with the children and hear their thoughts on voting, and we hope that it was connecting for parents too. The community also gave positive feedback. So voters from Deerfield community took the time to send us a note that said, "Hello, elections team. Pass this thank you to the young wise one, whose art will enliven the 2024 I Voted sticker." Also in our broader elections community, we were praised by the State Board of Elections, who wants copies of our sticker. Other elections directors reached out in congratulations, and we were also able to help Currituck County set up their own sticker contest, so they had one too this year. By all accounts, this was a success. And without further delay, I'd like to read the names of our top 10 finalists and ask if any of you are here today to come up and receive your award and stick around for a photo as well. So the names of the top 10 are Abigail Hale, Amy Norton, August Skipper, James Couch, Judy Felipe, Liam Sherman, McKinley Israel, Tristan O'Donnell, Valentina Giaratelli, and our winner, Maya Leroy. And yes, and we've got
This is for McKinley. Maya, do you want to say a couple of words?
I think it is very important. I think it is very important for people to vote, and I think it is very important also for those people to have a say in who runs our country.
While they're organizing, I wanted to show the awards. I thought it was very sweet. The CAPE team did a great job. So it has the award with their sticker on it, all individualized. It's very lovely.
All right, great job, great work. All right, before we leave, good news. It's not really good news, but it's still something I would like to share on behalf of the board. I wanted to acknowledge that the County Commission this meeting this evening will be County Attorney Michael Frew's last meeting with us. So we wanted to say congratulations and thank you for all of your years of service with Buncombe County, and best wishes on all of your future work in the legal profession, and just appreciation for all of your great public service. Thank you, Michael. Okay. We go on to presentations. And we have, the first one is the proclamation recognizing National Manufacturing Month. And Clark Duncan and Ashley Swanger from the Asheville Chamber of Commerce are here with us. And Commissioner Al Whiteside is going to read the proclamation.
Yeah, you got everybody here. I'll read the proclamation first. Manufacturing Day, October 4th, 2024. Whereas North Carolina is home to the largest manufacturing workforce in the Southeast and the 9th largest in the United States, employing over 470,000 workers, representing more than 10% of the total workforce. And whereas Buncombe County is home to nearly 400 manufacturing firms specializing in the manufacture of a whole range of products, including automobile and heavy-duty truck components, aviation components, food and beverage, plastics, healthcare devices, printing, and related support activities, and more. And whereas over the past 10 years, manufacturing jobs have increased over 27% in Buncombe County, adding close to 3,000 jobs. And whereas manufacturing firms in Buncombe County support educational institutions, including Buncombe County Schools, Asheville City Schools, AB Tech, UNC Asheville, Western Carolina University, along with many other educational institutions, nonprofits, and charities in the county. And whereas Buncombe County Schools, Asheville City Schools, AB Tech, and other educational institutions in the region offer state-of-the-art instruction in high-demand careers serving the workforce needs of manufacturing employers in the region. And whereas 4 of the top 10 property taxpayers in Buncombe County are manufacturing firms. And whereas, based on EDC project announcements, manufacturing firms in the region have invested more than $1.1 billion in capital investments over the past decade. And whereas Buncombe County's average manufacturing wage in the county is $63,263, which makes manufacturing one of the higher paying sectors in the county. And whereas Buncombe County's 13,700 plus manufacturing jobs generate total wages of nearly $870 million annually. And whereas a part of National Manufacturing Week, as part of National Manufacturing Week, the week of October 4th through the 11th, and Manufacturing Day, October 4th, hundreds of educators, teachers, and workforce partners will visit local manufacturing firms to increase the awareness of the career opportunities available in this sector. And it's signed by Brownie Newman, Chair of the Buncombe County Commissioners. And let's give them a hand for what they do. Doc, you can't pass up the opportunity, so come on. No, I don't win.
It's an honor to be with you all tonight. Thank you for taking a moment in the busy agenda to recognize the contributions of our advanced manufacturing sector in meeting our common ground goals of growing wages and economic mobility and sustained tax-based growth here in the county. If I may recognize Will Hager, who joins us tonight from GE Aerospace. He is growth playbook leader at their world-class facility on Sweeten Creek Industrial Park. I'm going to get that title one day, Will. And they are generously hosting us on October the 4th. Invitations are with the clerk if you care to join us for 3 hours of engagement where we wrangle 300 of the brightest young minds in Asheville City and Buncombe County schools for engagement on careers and advanced manufacturing. My gratitude also to Deborah Bailey and Patricia Manning, our partners at AB Tech, and of course, Nathan Ramsey hiding behind the group there, our partner at the Workforce Development Board at Land of Sky. Thanks you also to the Commission for your 30 years of stewardship of economic development in this community. Greatly appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you all. Next is a proclamation recognizing Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month. And Commissioner Jasmine Beach Ferrara will present the proclamation. And I think we have Norma Brown and Dr. Noel Armstrong here, and perhaps with other friends to recognize this as well.
Oh, great.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Curve around. How are you? It's good to see you. Happy. Thank you so much.
We got everyone? Welcome. We're so glad that you all are here with us. I think this might be a record-setting delegation. And we're so thrilled that you're here tonight. I'm honored to read this proclamation celebrating National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month, and then we'll turn things over to Ms. Brown. Whereas September 15th to October 15th is recognized as National Hispanic Heritage Month, known as Mes de la Herencia Hispana, which is a time to honor the invaluable ways Hispanics and Latinos contribute to our common goals, celebrate their diverse cultures, and work toward a stronger, more inclusive, and more prosperous society for all. And whereas September 15th is significant as a starting date for National Hispanic Heritage Month, because it is the anniversary of independence for several Latin American countries, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, while Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence on September 16th and September 18th, respectively. And whereas Buncombe County is committed to creating an inclusive community that celebrates diversity and ensures all residents have equitable opportunities to lead healthy, peaceful, safe, and sustainable lives. And whereas in 2000, 2.8% of the Buncombe County population identified as Hispanic or Latino. That grew to 6% in 2010 and 8.1% in 2020, which represents a significant and fast-growing demographic. And whereas representatives from the Hispanic and Latino community assisted Buncombe County in developing its inaugural comprehensive language access plan that is helping to make all of the county's services more equitable. And whereas residents are encouraged to learn more about the contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans through the Buncombe County Library, which has cultivated a reading list of important books written about and by Hispanic and Latin American authors. And whereas Buncombe County's commitment to being a more inclusive community is exemplified through the Buncombe County Creative Equity Mural Project, which features the mural Eres un Orgullo Latino, translated means you are Latin pride, which was designed and painted by artist Leslie Renalte Yanco. This 2,590 square foot mural depicts 12 figures from the Latino community, picturing members from all walks of life and their different goals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners proclaim September 15th to October 15th, 2024 as National Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month in Buncombe County, and encourage our community to join us in celebrating the great contributions of Hispanic and Latin Americans to our county, state, and nation. The 17th day of September 2024, signed by Brownie Newman, Chairman of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners.
And I'll just take a second to introduce Ms. Norma Brown. She is the Executive Director of Unite, and she'll have a few words.
I have to speak the language of my heart, but where's Rocio? Rocio will do it in English. Honorable comisionados del Condado de Buncombe, estimados invitados, queridas familias, jóvenes y miembros de la comunidad. Es con gran alegría e inmensa gratitud que nos encontramos aquí hoy mientras Únete recibe esta proclamación oficial del Mes de la Herencia Hispana. Este reconocimiento honra no solo la rica herencia cultural que aportamos, sino también la resiliencia, la fortaleza y el espíritu de nuestra comunidad.
Honorable Buncombe County Commissioners, esteemed guests, dear families, youth, and community members, it is with great joy and immense gratitude that we stand here today as UNETE receives this official proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month. This recognition honors not only the rich cultural heritage we bring, but also the resilience, the strength, and spirit of our community.
Este momento también es un testimonio del increíble apoyo de los jóvenes del Grupo Manos y sus familias, de amigos que están presentes hoy, porque su confianza en nuestros programas como Manos de Mujer a Mujer ha sido nuestra mayor motivación. Es su fe en nuestra misión lo que nos impulsa a buscar continuamente recursos, apoyo y comprensión sin importar los desafíos que enfrentemos. Sabemos que nuestra comunidad, nuestras familias están llenas de dones, sabiduría y un potencial inmenso.
This moment is also a testament to the incredible youth and families who have supported UNETE throughout the years. Your trust in our programs like Manos and De Mujer a Mujer has been our greatest motivation. It is your faith in our mission that drives us to continuously seek our resources, support, and understanding, regardless of the challenges we face. We know that our community, our families are filled with gifts, wisdom, and immeasurable potential.
A los promotores de salud de UNETE, que están hoy aquí con nosotros, si levantan la mano, por favor. Ustedes son la columna vertebral de nuestra organización. Caminan junto a nuestras familias en cada paso, bajo la lluvia o el sol, enfrentando obstáculos grandes y pequeños. Su dedicación a servir a los demás, ya sea proporcionando recursos vitales de salud, apoyando el bienestar mental o haciendo recomendaciones, ha fortalecido nuestra comunidad y forjado lazos de confianza incrementables. Ustedes son la razón por la cual continuamos creciendo y prosperando como organización frente a la adversidad.
To our community health workers, if you'd raise your hand, please. You are the backbone of our organization. You walk alongside our families every step of the way, in rain or shine, through obstacles big and small. Your dedication to serving others, whether it's providing vital health resources or supporting mental wellness, has strengthened our community and forged unbreakable bonds of trust. You are the reason we continue to grow and thrive in the face of adversity.
Sin embargo, no podemos celebrar nuestra herencia sin reconocer los desafíos que seguimos enfrentando. Mientras que nuestra comida, músicas y tradiciones son a menudo abrazadas, sabemos que como seres humanos todavía luchamos contra malos entendidos, prejuicios en contra nuestra y sistemas que no siempre honran las verdaderas contribuciones que hacemos y somos capaces de hacer a esta nación. Estas luchas, que son por la dignidad y el respeto, nos recuerdan que el camino por delante aún es largo, pero al reflexionar sobre nuestra fortaleza, nuestra cultura y nuestra resiliencia, recordemos que siempre hemos superado los obstáculos y hoy estamos aquí. Nuestra comunidad posee tantos dones como poder para transformar las dificultades que enfrentamos.
Yet, we cannot celebrate our heritage without acknowledging the challenges we continue to confront. While our food, music, and traditions are often embraced, we know that as human beings, we still battle misconceptions, prejudice, and systems that do not always honor the true contributions we make to this nation. These struggles, this fight for dignity and respect, reminds us that the road ahead is still long. But as we reflect on our strength, our culture, and our resilience, we are reminded that we have always overcome. Our community holds both the gifts and the power to transform any hardship into opportunity.
Nuestra celebración del mes de herencia hispana es una celebración de nuestra diversidad, nuestra fortaleza y nuestras contribuciones, las visibles y las invisibles. Somos constructores, educadores, sanadores, defensores y lo más importante, somos una familia. Únete seguirá firme en su misión de amplificar nuestras voces, elevarnos unos a otros y derribar las barreras que se interponen en el camino hacia la verdadera equidad e inclusión.
Our celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month is a celebration of our diversity, our strength, and our contributions, both seen and unseen. We are builders, educators, healers, advocates, and most importantly, we are family. UNETE will continue to stand firm in its mission to amplify our voices, lift each other up, and break down the barriers that stand in the way of true equity and inclusion.
Para concluir, agradezco al condado de Buncombe County y a los honorables comisionados por reconocernos hoy. Esta proclamación no solo es un símbolo de nuestra herencia, es recordarnos la responsabilidad colectiva que tenemos de seguir abogando por un futuro en cada individuo sin importar su origen, para que sea valorado, escuchado y respetado. En una nota más personal, si bien esta es la tercera vez que representando organizaciones recibo este reconocimiento, es la primera vez que las personas que propusieron son de la comunidad morena, y eso representa un privilegio enorme para quien, como yo personalmente y nuestra organización, creemos que todos juntos podemos hacer cambios profundos y notables. Sorry, no estaba escrito.
So this was off script. This will be the third time that Norma Brown has been recognized for representing different organizations, but this is the first time that people of color were the ones who nominated her to be here. And it is a personal privilege and or as an organization to stand here today. But this just comes to show that together we can do deep change.
And debo agradecer el apoyo de los comisionados a Únete con diferentes grants y con el grupo Umoja. Y vamos a continuar el trabajo y vamos a continuar honrando a los amigos que están aquí hoy. Si se ponen de pie, Sergio, tú te ves bien fácil. Mónica, familias, amigos, colegas, les agradezco mucho, doña Mari, por haber venido hoy. I can say it in English, no worry. Thank you. Rocío, and even that UNETE is relatively new, remember that is rooted in 20 years of community support and grassroots work. Otherwise, this will not be possible. This is not for me, this is not for UNETE, this is for everybody that is behind me and that is not present today. Esto no es para mí, esto es el resultado de 20 años de trabajo con la comunidad y no lo recibo, yo lo recibo en nombre de ustedes, porque sin ustedes, sin los colegas, sin las familias, sin los amigos, UNETE no existiría hoy. Muchísimas gracias.
There was one piece I did not mention that she mentioned earlier. In closing, I thank you, Buncombe County, for recognizing us today. This proclamation is not just a symbol of our heritage, it is a reminder of our collective responsibility to keep advocating for a future where every individual, regardless of background, is valued, heard, and respected. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. It's like gathering of like so many people. Hey, thank you. Cool. All right. Okay, Commissioners, the third item under presentations is an update from the Health and Human Services Board. And Lucy Lawrence is here to help us out with that.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate you adding us to the agenda this evening. And I'm very grateful and proud to be representing the Health and Human Services Board. As you can see, we have 18 members on our board, and 10 of these are statute mandated positions. We are very happy that we have all of those mandated positions filled at this time, and all of our members serve 4-year terms. You will see the reporting structure of the Health and Human Services Board. Our board works in partnership with our director to ensure a variety of subject matter expertise and lived experiences are considered when making decisions about policies and priorities of our agency. Beginning in early 2021, the HHS board developed 3 different community committees to help our members and other advocates delve deeper into issues surrounding our 3 main divisions that are actually divided by each of the areas in the department. These committees have focused on different topics and have allowed the board to become better advocates in different topics that arise in our community. The board last gave an update to you all commissioners in March of 2021. That was prior to me becoming the chair. Since then, we have been working on advocacy around a variety of issues, including energy assistance and reproductive rights at the state level, and advocating for harm reduction projects such as our Equitable Access Pilot, which provides smoking supplies to intravenous drug users to reduce their risk from needles. Our most critical challenges since March of 2021 include the pandemic response, which affects all divisions in the department. Public health continues to navigate challenges of vaccination and testing, as well as reestablishing their identity beyond COVID. Economic resources staff have been stretched as moratoriums and other forms of financial assistance are rolled back to pre-pandemic levels. And social work struggles with the pandemic-related social, economic, and mental health stressors that continue. Economic services was especially stretched by the combination of Medicaid expansion and the conversion of our energy assistance program from a contract service to one operated in-house through HHS. Finally, we are continuing to struggle to find foster care placements for all children and youth, but especially those who need more time, care, and attention than a regular foster care family can provide. The HHS board is working closely with the department's staff and county management to identify solutions to these challenges that are effective and efficient. I know you see the department's budget every year, but as a reminder, a little over half of the department's budget is county funds. The rest is a combination of state, earned revenue, and grant funds. From the previous slide, the 3 main divisions of the department are fairly equal budget-wise. Where the county dollars go, however, is primarily to social work and public health divisions. HHS has recently completed our business plan. The staff identified 16 goals that they will focus on over the next 2 years. The board actually went through a prioritization process of our own and identified the following 4 goals as priorities for our board. To identify communities with high social vulnerabilities and increase outreach events by 5% in all areas, identified by December 2027. Decrease Black-white infant mortality disparity by 10% by December 2027. Increase retention of social work staff by 25% by December 2027. And then collaborate with other departments and community partners to increase opportunities for no wrong door events, where staff are available to complete applications for public assistance programs. Other HHS board priorities that we have been working on over the past year and continue to work on are a land and labor acknowledgement. This is an ad hoc committee of several board members who have been working with administrators in the county and are developing this acknowledgement for our board and specific to the areas that our board serves. We are also working on seamless transitions. We are in the process of conducting final interviews for a new HHS director and hope to have those interviews completed this week. And fingers crossed that that new person will be in their position hopefully November. And then we will also be moving to a new board chair. I have been on the board since 2027. I have been chair since July 2021, and I will be rotating off the board in March 2025. So we will have a lot of transitions to massage in terms of the new director and the new chair. And then finally, thank you. And I welcome any questions or curiosities that you all have.
All right, hey, thank you so much. Great presentation. Commissioners, any questions?
Well, thank you for your service for
Thank
all
you.
that time. And then could you speak a little bit more about the challenge around the foster care placement?
I will let Dr. Bridger answer that question.
It's funny. So I am Colleen Bridger. Y'all met me a couple months ago. I'm the interim HHS director. Lucy and I were preparing for this, and I said, if you get any questions about the foster care program, I will answer them. So it is one of, I think, the highest priorities for the department. You've seen the coverage in the media about the issue, and I think that Rebecca has done a good job of communicating the challenges. What you don't see is the exceptional job that she and her team have done in responding to an ever-growing need with an ever-shrinking pot of resources. So we are going to be working with the county manager's office. We're presenting actually next week at her management advisory group about some specifics, and then we'll be sharing those specific steps that we're taking at the department to ensure that fewer kids go into foster care so we can intervene earlier and keep kids with their families, which is where they do best. But if the worst case scenario happens and we do have to take custody and we do have to remove them from the home, that we're placing them in homes where they have a safe, stable, nurturing environment while we work with their family to address the issues that cause them to have to be removed in the first place. So that's the ultimate goal, and I've only been here a couple of months, but I'm amazed at the work that they do.
Thank you both for being here. Appreciate your great work. All right, county manager's report.
No report, sir.
All right. Moving on to old business. The first item is, whoops. Sorry. It's not. Okay, public hearing on the FY26 Section 5311 grant application. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to provide information on the proposed fiscal year 2026 annual Section 5311 administrative and capital grants applications on your agenda this evening. This required public hearing and associated resolution are part of our annual grant application to the North Carolina Department of Transportation for state and federal grant funds. The grant funds we seek to apply support a portion of our annual administrative and capital costs for Buncombe County's community transportation system, Mountain Mobility. Mountain Mobility serves senior adults, persons with disabilities, clients of human service agencies, and the general public. The memorandum included in your materials summarizes the FY26 grant applications. The administrative grant, let's see, I have it broken out. The administrative grants consist of 80% federal, 5% state, and 15% local funding. Buncombe County's fiscal year 26 funding level established by North Carolina DOT is $429,764, including $365,299 in federal and state funds, with a local match of $64,465. Administrative funds will be used to assist in covering costs for administrative staff wages and contract costs, employee development and training costs for vehicle operators and other staff, vehicle operator drug and alcohol testing, vehicle insurance, and technology, communications, and facility costs for this program. The combined capital grant, meanwhile, consists of 80% federal, 10% state, and 10% local funding. Capital equipment costs for fiscal year 26 will be $637,617, encompassing some $570,000 in federal and state funds with a local match of $63,763. Capital costs are for 3 vehicles and 3 propane conversion kits. In addition to these replacements are funds for a new scheduling and reservations system, including tablets for the vehicles. A notice of the public hearing has been provided for your information. The Buncombe County Community Transportation Advisory Board and staff would like to thank the board for its continuing support of the Mountain Mobility Program, and I would be glad to answer any questions the board may have on the grant application or resolution following the public hearing.
Thank you. All right, if there's no questions, let's open the public hearing at 6:02 p.m. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak during the public hearing? All right, I'll close the public hearing at 6:03 p.m.
Thank you, and if you would adopt the resolution to apply for these funds.
Motion authorizing the chairperson to execute an application for the FY 2026 Public Transportation Program funding, enter into an agreement with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, and to provide the necessary certifications and grant documents.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now we come to old business, and the first item is consideration of that budget amendment for the Inca Recreation Construction Contract with Civil Design Concept and to accept grant award funding from the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Appreciate you being here. Allison Daines, Director for Buncombe County Parks and Recreation. Excited to talk about Inca Recreation Destination Phase 2. In 2023, we applied for and received a grant award through TPDF funding to provide artificial turfing for fields 3, 4, 5, and 9 at the Buncombe County Sports Field, of which 3, 4, and 5 will also have lights associated with them, as well as accessible bleachers and walkway. This project also will include the installation in an inclusive playground, renovation of the central restroom to include a park ranger office and contact station, and a new shelter with lighting as we build the Buncombe County Sports Park. The funding application request was for $6 million. The grant award came in at $4,054,415. That was the approved, so there is a gap of approximately $2 million. We have identified a potential revenue source through the LIFT fund, or the Legacy Investment from Tourism Fund, through the TDA. We have not yet heard of a date for application, but previous application opened in October of last year and went through December. And so we are hoping to hear soon when that opportunity will begin, and we will seek to further the gap through that LIFT fund, hopefully. Hopefully fall of 2024. As part of this, we've done an RFQ and advertised for design services for these 4 turfed fields, the lighting and the accessible walking path at the sports park. CDC, which is a local firm based in Asheville, received the award, and we are looking to move forward with their contract at $567,000, which will include the design, soil test, geotech, and construction with cost estimates. We anticipate that this design will take approximately 8 to 10 months. And just so that you're aware, the reason for that length of time is we need to ensure what the soil is beneath the surface there, as well as allow plenty of time for permitting and review. So with that, I am here to request a motion to accept the TPDF award of $4,054,415 for the Enka Recreation Destination Phase 2, along with a motion to approve the budget amendment for the Recreation Destination Phase 2. And thirdly, a motion to approve the contract with CDC for design services at $567,000.
Motion to approve the budget amendment, accept the grant award, and recommend executing the design contract with Civil Design Concepts.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Allison.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item, consideration of a resolution authorizing the amendment of an interlocal agreement between Buncombe County and the City of Asheville, expanding the availability of emergency shelter beds and the approval of COVID recovery funding project reallocation.
Good evening, everyone. So we'll just start with a quick recap of the COVID recovery funding. Buncombe County received $50.7 million in state and local fiscal recovery funds that was authorized by the American Rescue Plan Act in a way to mitigate the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The county website has a recovery funding hub that recaps all of the work we've done to date, including kind of the timeline of our results, our requests for proposals from the community, our funding applications, and the subsequent award information and performance reports. Oops, sorry. So this chart shows our current distribution of funds by category. I do want to point out this does not reflect the recent action taken on September 3rd for the broadband. We will be updating the chart for the website just to give you an overview of where we're at. And currently the county has completed 22 projects. There are 19 reflected on the website currently, and we have 3 additional projects that will be updated shortly. We have project spotlight reports that cover a brief description of each of the projects and some of the performance results we've seen. What I want to point out are some important dates that are approaching. At December 31st, 2024 is the obligation deadline for all of the state and local fiscal recovery funds from the Treasury. Obligation is defined as an order placed for property and services and entry into contracts of award and similar transactions that require payment. All of our projects are currently on track to be fully obligated prior to the deadline based on guidance defined by the U.S. Treasury. We do currently have $3.6 million that is currently unobligated, but we are also looking at a proposal that was presented to you last meeting on September 3rd from the Continuum of Care for use of those funds. Once all funds are obligated, we will continue to monitor the progress of each of the open projects, but all funds will have to be fully expended by December 31st, 2026. So a brief recap of the housing and shelter obligation. In September 2023, we had $875,000 allocated for the HIAC shelter support. We entered into that with an interlocal agreement with the city of Asheville, who matched this funding with their COVID recovery funds. And there were 3 shelters funded through that program. That includes Salvation Army, Haywood Street Respite, and Safe Shelter. Also at that time in September 2023, the board set aside $3.8 million to be allocated for future housing and shelter projects. The total currently sits at that $3.6 million amount. In June 2024, the Asheville Buncombe Continuum of Care work group formed to develop a request for proposals in support of low barrier shelter bed expansion in Buncombe County. And in September 2024, Community Development was here. This was Lacey Hoyle, who was here last meeting, to share those proposal recommendations and an additional request to extend the HIAC shelter support contract for Salvation Army. I did pull a few of those slides just to recap what the proposal recommendations were. For Haywood Street Respite, the COC board recommendation was for $1.6 million that would fund 13 new shelter beds and preserve the 3 expansion beds from the HIAC shelter and their 9 existing. So it would be a total of 25 beds. Safe Shelter proposal is for just over $1 million, and it preserves their 20 beds from the HIAC shelter expansion and provides potential for up to 5 new shelter beds for a total of 25. And the Salvation Army request is to fund 1 additional year of their current contract, which runs through December 2024, so it would be through December 2025 for 65 shelter beds. And just a brief chart to recap those total amounts. The total recommendation from the COC was $3.6 million. So the proposed allocation from the grant is to reduce the housing shelter project that was set aside for $3.6 million. This is the only remaining unobligated funds. And we would propose to increase the HIAC shelter support project total and fund an amended interlocal agreement with the city for those total amounts to fund the COC recommendations as presented on September 3rd. So I would ask that you consider approval of the COVID recovery funding project reallocations and also the resolution authorizing the amendment of the interlocal agreement between Buncombe County and the City of Asheville, expanding the availability of emergency shelter beds. Lacey Hoyle is also here, and either one of us would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I have a question either for Lacey or Commissioner Beach Ferrara. And we talked about this some last time, but can you also just share some more so with the long-term funding strategy, right, because this is one step in the process, speak to that long-term strategy, and also specifically what some of these capital funds actually do as well, especially with the safe shelter, with that project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll defer first to Lacey, who's got so much expertise on the details of the
Sure,
project.
yeah.
And I can chime in if needed.
So I can tell you a little bit about each project's long-term sustainability plan right now. So the Salvation Army is working very closely with their headquarters to come up with a long-term vision. They're looking at properties that they own in addition to their Haywood Street shelter and how they may be most useful to that vision. I think that's still very much under development at this point. Safe Shelter recently hired a development and engagement specialist who's focusing on long-term sustainability. That person is identifying sources for funding and also building relationships with community partners. They've already taken a diversified approach to funding with over 20 different funding sources, and they have a lot of strong individual donations as well. They are looking at how tailored plans for Medicaid expansion might also help them to generate some additional federal reimbursement. Haywood Street is also looking at Medicaid expansion as an opportunity for long-term sustainability. They have been participating in the North Carolina Healthy Opportunities pilot since 2022, and they're receiving reimbursement for medical respite care for individuals who have Medicaid managed care plans and who are enrolled in the NC HOP program. So they have a strong team working on looking for different funding sources. They've had good success attracting grant funding, and they have a grant through a national medical respite organization that will sustain them through June of 2025. And they're continuing to look for additional grant funding as all of these entities are, and that's pretty standard for most nonprofits these days. In terms of capital projects, so Safe Shelter's capital request is specifically, they've been operating 20 congregate beds. Those beds are going to shift to mostly non-congregate, dependent upon the size of the household that they're sheltering. And they're going to be adding 5 congregate beds and have space for an additional 5 overflow emergency beds. They are going to move into the educational building at Trinity United Methodist Church, and that building needs to be upfit with sprinklers and showers in order for them to do that. So that's what their capital request is about. And Haywood Street is looking to add a second floor to their existing location and an elevator, and that's where they would put those additional 13 beds. That's what their capital project is for.
And with the Safe Shelter, previously they've had to go to different locations, right? So this is going to put them in one location.
That's right, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I think you had mentioned, is there some potential for other funding, HCA?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as we broaden this conversation, not just to the votes we'll take tonight, but looking kind of down the runway at how we continue to our community continues to provide these really essential and effective services, and look at how other communities are doing it. It is not all coming from local government funding, nor is it all coming from individual donors or faith communities. One model that I think is particularly relevant in our community is that respite beds can often be funded by local hospitals who recognize not just the public good of it, but in fact, ultimately often the cost savings, because many people who are being cared for in respite settings are people who are medically vulnerable or fragile enough that they are not eligible for other shelter services, and are frequently bouncing in and out of the ER with multiple hospital stays. So that's something that I think we should continue to push on as a community, is being in discussions with HCA about their opportunities to fund respite beds in our community. I think there's been significant philanthropic investment in various strategies around helping people be housed, and would hope that we'd see those continue to increase as we are significantly increasing the number of high access beds that are part of the COC model. There's going to be a continuity and continuum of services that hasn't existed historically in our community. There's going to be shared data management, or shared data that can be accessed in new ways. There's a significant push from the county and the city around creating supportive housing and forms of affordable housing. So there's really a lot on the table that hasn't been there historically when we think about ways to really help people achieve safe and secure housing. And I would hope philanthropic partners in the community would see that and respond to those opportunities. There's also opportunities for corporate giving as well. So I think, the folks on the front lines of this work are doing really heroic work, as we know. I think the city and the county have stepped sort of into the breach in really significant ways in the last couple of years in terms of increasing our investments. And this represents, yet another significant investment and really moving the needle in important ways. And there's much work yet to be done. So I appreciate you kind of pointing us in that direction of what conversations does our community need to have next. But I also want to take a moment, if I can, just to kind of acknowledge that we are in such a different place than we were 2 years ago when we all gathered in that joint meeting with City Council and heard the recommendations from NAEH. And there were a lot of questions on the table about what new beds would look like and how services would be coordinated around them. And I think, our community has really rallied in inspiring ways, whether it's a startup like Safe Shelter, or whether it's a longstanding provider in our community like Haywood Street, figuring out ways to keep pushing to expand services and to be as responsive as possible, and to be as collaborative as possible in that. So I really do hope that the many, many hands from the newly appointed COC members to providers to folks in the county government who've worked so closely on this, to our partners at the city, can also kind of take a moment and feel some sense of progress in a long journey. We don't always pause when significant things happen in our community to acknowledge them. And with each of these beds, that's going to be changing someone's life, not just on a cold night, but the opportunities and the care that they're able to get. So I just want to thank you all. I'm coming up on the end of my term, and just to indulge me for a moment longer, this is something I've had the chance to work on quite a bit, and I've just been just so energized and inspired by how hard people have worked to get to a place where we can take a vote like we're about to take in a few minutes, and that will translate into real services on the ground. Well, maybe perhaps more than you asked for, but my thoughts on the subject.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for your work on this.
It's been an honor.
Commissioner Wells, I appreciate your questions about sustainability. I think that is every nonprofit organization's pipe dream, is to have a sustainable fundraising plan and operation plan. And I think it speaks to Lacey and her comments specifically. I met with a nonprofit this morning. They have 22 grant applications to fund one project. So it speaks to kind of where we are as a community with our organizations. But after digging in a little deeper, these three in particular, really looking, I think, to diversify and not just rely on county government, local governments, but looking at all the funding options that they have and how they're going to sustain the work that they're doing. I think they're all committed to being in this for the long haul for the members of our community who are most vulnerable right now. And Jasmine, thank you for your leadership as well.
Yeah. And I'd like to echo that and thank you and all of you for the work that you've done. And for me personally, I feel that we've finally reached a point where we're no longer kicking the can down the road. Now we're doing something that we can see, hopefully, the light at the end of the tunnel. Because for a long time I felt that, we're band-aiding it and piecemealing, but now we can see where we're going. I just want to make sure that we continue to give you the support you need to get there. And I hope the whole community, and from the different organizations I've talked to, I think everybody is on board now to get something done.
All right, is there a motion?
Do we need 1, 2?
Do you need 1 or 2?
Just one would be fine with the resolution as presented.
Make a motion to approve the COVID recovery funding project reallocations and to approve the resolution as written authorizing the amendment of an interlocal agreement between Buncombe County and the City of Asheville, expanding the availability of emergency shelter beds.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, the last item under old business is consideration of proposed changes to the Buncombe County Health Plan for 2025.
Good evening, everyone. This is kind of a follow-up from our last meeting on September 3rd. We had some takeaway questions, so I'm here to address those questions for you, and hopefully we can come to a decision about how to proceed with the health plan for 2025. So very quickly, this is the agenda, and this is just to explore the alternatives for GLP-1s for weight loss only, and I'd like to stress that this does not apply to GLP-1s as they relate to treatment of diabetes. Now, this is just, again, a summary of kind of the evolution of GLP-1s, just for reference about how they started out as medicine or drugs to help treat diabetes, and then through that, it was discovered that there was an additional weight loss component that was associated with those, and through that, newer drugs were created to kind of target more of that weight loss, and providers started to prescribe those for people that met the criteria. And then what we know now is that as we're progressing, several state Medicaid agencies, including North Carolina now, and that's a fairly new update to this, are covering GLP-1s for weight loss. On the other side, NC State Health Plan decided to not cover them effective in April for weight loss. Currently, Medicare does not cover them for weight loss. And none of the states, like states typically mandate certain items be covered. Currently, there are no state mandates that are saying GLP-1s for weight loss have to be covered under fully insured health plans. And to date, while there's some work that's being done on converting these into an oral drug, there are none that are on the market today. So all the GLP-1s for weight loss are injectables. So this is a slide from our last meeting, and it just kind of shows the utilization of the diabetic GLP-1s versus the weight loss GLP-1s for Buncombe County, so your members, from the beginning of the plan year, January 1st, 24 through August, kind of the end of August 24. So then to kind of reiterate, what the recommendation was at the previous meeting was to make the following plan changes effective January 1st, 2025. And that was to increase employee contributions, to modify the coinsurance on the standard plan, and to increase the deductible and out-of-pocket maximums on the high deductible health plan to coincide with IRS regulations, and then to no longer cover the GLP-1s for weight loss, and to keep treatment, the GLP treatment for diabetes the same. And essentially, all of the above would result in an increase of $1.8 million to the health plan, with the county absorbing $1.4 million of that increase, and the employee cost share between plan design and contributions would be about $400,000. So from there, we have our questions. So the first questioners that the commissioners asked would the county still cover some weight loss medications? And the answer to that is yes. We would still cover all of the frontline, lower cost weight loss medications listed here. The second question was then, what would the cost impact be to the plan if we continue to cover the GLP-1 drugs as we do today? So essentially, if we continue to cover the drugs as we do today with no change, the cost through August was roughly $500,000. Our recommendation removes that from future costs, so we would actually have to put that back in and then kind of annualize that a little bit. So that would take the 1.8 million increase to a 2.2 million increase, of which the county would have to absorb 1.8 million, maintaining the employee cost share of that to 400,000.
Hey, can I ask one question, just as we're going through this? You said the Buncombe County's costs for GLP-1s for weight loss through August was right at $500,000, right? So, but is that basically just half the year?
Pretty much, yeah.
So it's like it's a
Yeah.
calendar year, so
Yeah.
if that extended out, it would be like closer to $1 million.
Potentially, right, without really, because this is so new. So sometimes we look at the past to predict the future, but because this is so new, we don't have a ton of past to look at. So we're being kind of conservative on our moving forward, but you're correct. Yes, if we're looking at annualizing that data, it's anywhere between 750,000 and $1 million. Yes.
Okay, and the previous year, GLP-1s were not used for weight loss.
Correct.
Covered under, so this is the first year that we have any info on it.
That is correct, yes, yes.
Thanks for clarifying.
Because previously it was just for diabetes, so there's no historical to look at. Then the next question that was posed was, currently the copay for these drugs is approximately $50. So that's all the members are paying when they go to fill this prescription. And as we know, these
Did we
are.
skip a question?
We skipped
Oh, yeah.
question.
I think we maybe skip question 3.
Number 3.
Did I?
Let's check it out.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I skipped ahead. I apologize. Thank you. So then another question that came up was, if we continue to cover the GLP-1s, but with it, can we partner it with a weight management program? This way, the employees or the members that are using these drugs are also getting the support from lifestyle and diet, exercise, and all of those things to help them be successful in their weight loss journey moving forward. So if they go off the drugs, they don't potentially gain the weight back. So by doing that, yes, we're adding the cost of the drugs back in. And then we also have to add in the cost of the program. But there's some savings that's associated with that, because through them managing the distribution of these drugs, they're going to be very strict on who qualifies for them and who doesn't. Not saying that anybody who needs it. Yes?
Okay, I mean, you can finish that thought, but I just had a question on, I mean, so this scenario says it's like 2.1. The previous one was 2.2.
Right, so it's about $100,000 savings to cover them
Net savings.
with the weight management program.
Okay, so if we add the weight management thing in, it's both kind of like better outcomes plus cheaper.
Right, yes, yes.
Great.
Yeah, and you're managing the utilization of these medications, and from there, we could potentially track their effectiveness and, potentially
So
make.
subscribing to the service of this program does cost money, but it's the savings through actual like benefits of it brings it back down so that in totality it ends up being.
Right, the kind of the break even, if you will, based on current members that are utilizing these drugs, because it's a per member per month cost for those drugs. So you're looking at what that cost is. So we just kind of did this based on who's using it today, so that number can fluctuate. But in theory, yes, that we would either break even or there'd be a slight savings by managing the folks who are utilizing these drugs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So then question 4 was, and I kind of wanted to keep this one separate, is instead of kind of adding it into previous totals, is currently the copays for these drugs are approximately $50. So when a member goes and fills a prescription, they're paying $50. The plan is paying the rest. And as we discussed previously, these drugs cost around $1,200 a month. So we took a look at what other specialty copays are, and most plans that want to carve out or charge a higher rate for their specialty copays typically do it on a co-insurance level, but with a limit. And typically that amount is like, say, 80%, but up to a cap of $200. So given the cost of these drugs, we just went ahead and modeled the $200 copay because of the cost of them. The employee would max out at that higher amount. So if you take into account the current prescriptions through the end of August, which was about 427 at the current copay, it's 20,700 that the members are paying. Buncome's paying the balance. And if we did it with a $200 proposed copay, assuming the same amount, the members would pay $85,400 in copays. So the county would be saving approximately $64,000 by increasing that copay amount. And we didn't factor into this any shift in behavior the higher copay might generate because it's kind of hard to predict that. And with the cost of these drugs, $200 is still a very reasonable amount for if they were getting it on their own.
Just can we stay on that one for a second?
Sure.
I just want to make sure as we're going through this, because I honestly had trouble kind of following all this
Yep.
as I was reading it. So on this one, it says, we are proposing to increase the copay to $200 for these drugs.
Yes.
But actually, the recommendation is to not do this at all, right? Is to not do this.
Well, this was just kind of a separate question
Right.
to say, hey, what if we did this? What would the potential savings be? And that's,
Okay. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm following it correctly.
Mhm.
The recommendation is like, we don't offer this at all unless you have diabetes.
Correct.
But you're saying, but if we did do it, this is what would be suggested as the amount, okay? Is that-
right,
am I
yes,
following that?
that is correct, yes. Mhm.
This was in response to the questions if you could have a different copay for this. So if you choose to keep it, these are options that.
Yeah, okay. But it doesn't model, as you were saying, like, potentially some people might say, gosh, now that I'm shouldering quite a bit more of this
Correct.
cost, you know, it has been valuable, but, you know, I'm not going to continue. It's not worth that much to me. So intuitively, there will be some reduction in cost to the county as some people make a choice to not absorb these higher costs, but this just doesn't predict what that reduction might be. It just assumes like there's 100% full participation even when staff are paying.
Right, and this
Yeah.
is right, and it's just taking a snapshot of a moment in time because the number fluctuates essentially every time we kind of pull data and pull reports. So you kind of have to just find that moment in time and say, okay, if we just use this data, what would that look like? So you're correct that with the higher copay, that could be enough of a
It could bring the cost of the
disincentive.
county down.
Right, it could
meaningfully,
be
but we
enough
don't
of a
know because we
disincentive
haven't
for some
ever
people.
tried it out, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then potentially you could bolt this amount onto any of the previous options. So if you wanted to do this, obviously our recommendation is the initial one, but if you wanted to bolt this on with the weight management program, there's potentially some additional savings there as well. And then it was just what is the cost of the program, and it's $142 per participant per month that members are on the weight management program. And you're only paying for the ones that are engaged. I will say, however, that the way the program works is that anybody who has a current prior authorization, and they're typically 12 months, we have to wait until that prior authorization expires. And then when they get when they need a new prior authorization, that's when they would need to go through the program. So the potential savings is kind of staggered. So somebody could have 3 months left on their prior authorization, or somebody could have 6 months left on their prior authorization. So it would kind of be a staggered on the current members, but any new members starting January 1st would have to enter directly into the weight management program.
And do you have, I was looking through here and I may be missing it, but comparing the cost of your recommendation to if we were to go with the weight management program and the copay increase to 200.
I didn't put a slide together that combines those two, but it's essentially, it would probably take that 2.1 million just down very slightly because the savings is really about $65,000.
And over the course of the year, it was about a saving of almost 100,000?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So that might take that down to, say, 2 million.
And the 2 million would be compared to?
The original recommendation, which was 1.8 million.
Okay, so a difference of a couple 100,000. Is that, I just want to make sure I'm correct. You're saying it's compared
Yes,
2 million to the 1.8?
That's right, yes, correct.
Could we go back to the question number 2 slide for just a second and walk through that? So on that, so this one at the bottom, it talks about, so this is a $2.2 million forecasted increase, but with the employees absorbing 400,000 of it, the other 1.8 million from the county.
Correct.
But this is with no change. I mean, this is with not continuing to cover these medications for weight loss, just for diabetes, which we
No, that's the first slide. So that's the recommended action, which
Okay.
is 1.8 million.
Thank you. That's what I was like,
You're
what is
welcome.
causing this to be so high? I was like, I thought this
Yes.
was like not having that. So
Yes.
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, so the all-in number with the initial recommendation is 1.8 million. If we don't make any changes, that 1.8 million becomes 2.2 million. And then if we go to option 3 with the weight management program and bolt on the higher copay for those drugs, then we're looking at 2 million.
All right. Did you have some other slides to go through, or was that?
That was just there for reference if we needed it. This is just kind of how we came up with some of the math that just, as it just relates to, the cost of the drugs, the savings from the program, increasing the copay, just to kind of get a net projected cost for 2025. And again, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but these numbers are fluid as things are constantly evolving and changing with these drugs, and utilization kind of ebbs and flows. And then the rest of the slides are just the program highlights, which it's a newer program, so I'm not fully versed on the weeds of everything. So I apologize for that, but we can certainly provide more information, and these slides just kind of give an idea of what that is, if you all had any questions about that.
Let me ask this to
Sure.
make sure I'm understanding
Yep.
this right. The 400,000 that we keep passing through there
Mm-hmm.
to employees, is that going to be picked up by all employees or just the employees in the program?
All employees. So that's a combination of some small adjustments to the standard plan design and the high deductible health plan, and an increase in employee contributions.
And we only have, 100 and how many in it?
As of the end of August, it was 108 that were taking GLP-1s for weight loss.
Out of 1,700 employees? Or
Yes.
how many? Okay.
But I think, so I believe there's two different things. So with this, you're including everything that was recommended before, and then we're talking specifically about the GLPs.
Yes, so I'm glad you brought that up, because if you go back, can you go back to the recommended slide? I think that was
Sure.
maybe slide 5.
I went too fast.
All
There you
of
go.
those actions we would need for you to just opine on today. If you're interested in increasing the employee contribution, modifying the co-insurance, and increasing the deductible out-of-pocket for HSA, which is IRS required. So that's not really opining, that is something we have to do. But those other two is really what we want you to think about, increasing the premiums. We haven't heard a lot of employees complain about that. We really focus most on the GLP ones, but that's a hit to employees slightly. Then you have the modified, the co-insurance to the standard plan, and increasing the deductibles. We will like you to at least say if you want to do those, because those are part of our plan, and then we can focus on the GLP ones.
Okay, I'm glad we went back to this slide though too, because I just want to make sure I'm kind of understanding the base case for how costs will change. So under the recommended action, which would take out the GLPs for weight loss, so it's only there for medication, and it asks the employees to absorb $400,000 in sort of cost share, right? The county's forecasted increase under that base case is 1.4 million.
Yes.
So then when we start talking about the 1.8 million,
Then the
that's not 1.8 million more, it's just 400,000 more
Correct.
compared to what's going to happen,
regardless.
even if we take all the weight loss GLP stuff out.
Right, and that's broken out on each slide. So for example, at the bottom, the 2.2 takes the county up
Yep.
to 1.8 million, because we're keeping that employee cost share at 400.
And that 1.8 million, which becomes 1.4 million, that's just from like expected cost increases in this space kind of broadly, right?
Correct, and we do have the 1.4 program. We were expecting to have a minimal increase in our plan this year, so that 1.4 is something that we had already planned for. But as you go beyond that, that's what she said, now we have to add back more money.
Jasmine, do you have a question? No. Okay. All right.
And so you're looking at, so basically with this plan, we try to balance that out. And so those are the adjustments of why you're coming to us
Yes,
with
ma'am.
these recommendations.
Yes, and to keep this plan solvent for long-term, because we're talking about 1.8, but actually our insurance cost is closer to 38 million a year. So that's that's the bigger picture. $38 million is what we have set aside, and as you start to increase that, we need to find that someplace else.
And when you say find that somewhere else, so just so we understand, so like the 1.4 that you're saying is the county contribution, so that would be pulled from,
We've already set that aside when we did our budget conversation this year.
like in the general fund, though?
We have an insurance fund.
Okay.
But yes, we do transfer the money from the general fund to that insurance fund. So that insurance fund is, right now, we have that 1.4 set aside in the insurance fund to make this increase. We're expecting, I want to say, a 4.6% increase. If you add more, it becomes a little bit more, 5-6% increase. So we were already anticipating growth in that fund this year.
Okay. And so the 1.4 is set aside, but depending on what we decide, we could potentially need the additional funds.
Correct.
Okay.
An additional 300,000 or
400,000, yes.
But that's,
Yes. And we are holding the employees at the 400, but that's another conversation as well.
I want to make sure I followed one of the comments earlier about if we were going to keep GLPs for weight loss as well, then there's the idea of increasing the copay at $200. But did you say that part of the reason the thinking is like around $200, if it were, well, if someone's using this medication and so they are spending, maybe a couple $1,000s a year to pay for that copay, is that contributing to some deductible that they're going to hit?
That goes toward their out-of-pocket maximum. So yes, it does.
It does.
And once they hit that, then the plan's paying 100%.
And so what's the out-of-pocket maximum that most employees have? Is it the same or is it like different for broad spectrum?
It's different on each plan.
What is it under the most common plan?
The standard plan, I should know that off the top of my head. Laura, do you have that?
Looking back to Laura, I'm surprised you don't know such a head because she quotes these things to me all the time. But it depends on if you have family coverage and individual coverage as well.
Well, right, what's part of what I'm trying to kind of like understand from this is like, that's a pretty big increase, right? Like that's a couple $1,000s for someone who's using this every month. But is the reality that like they're gonna hit their deductible, so it's actually not as like much of a cost share as it sounds like, because over the course of a year, a lot of people are gonna hit their ceiling. So actually it's not really shifting as cost as much as it might appear, because you're gonna reach that ceiling and then the county's covering cost above that.
Right, so for example, on the standard plan, which is where I believe the bulk of your employees are, the individual out-of-pocket maximum is $1,600.
Okay, so they're not gonna pay $200 a month. They're gonna pay $1,600 a year, hit that ceiling, and then the county is covering all the costs. Is that the right way to think about it?
That is correct, yes.
Glad we talked that through.
Yes.
That's very different.
And that was actually a very, very good point. You're right, because once they reach that, then the plan pays 100%.
And there's nothing, there's nothing we could do to kind of address that short of like kind of making changes to the policy, right? Because a part of the idea is like, hey, this is this, really powerful new set of, medications for which are sort of innovative uses that in a lot of ways look very promising, but they're really expensive.
Yes.
So figuring out how to handle the fair cost allocation around it is not easy. So there would be, for example, like no way to say, hey, if you want to participate in using this set of medications for weight loss, payments for this don't count towards your out-of-pocket maximum, right? So that,
Unfortunately,
like,
we can't do that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We're not able to kind of pick and choose. That could be perceived as discriminatory to say, we're going to cover these other things, but this one, it's either all of them or none of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, what other questions? Do Commissioners have other questions, or do you want to, you've got other slides to go through as well?
No,
Or do you wanna
those were just
stay
there in case in case you had questions, general questions about the program.
Just, are there examples of other medications where we have a higher copay, just to help kind of think through?
Yeah, these would be considered specialty drugs, which is why they're at the $50 copay, because that's the highest copay.
But I mean, if it moved to 200, are there other?
Yes.
Our highest right now is 50.
50.
Other
So if we move it
plans,
to 200,
we will look at what other plans are doing, is what she was talking about. So other entities would have that higher copay. Does that make sense?
Like other local governments or
Yeah,
someone else.
okay, okay.
So are there examples of that?
I think that what Roy was talking about, that when she looked at what other specialty drugs are costing in other plans is where she got that 200.
Okay, thank you.
And from, when you say other plans, that's other plans like just out in the marketplace? Like
Yep, mm-hmm, yeah.
What businesses do, things like that?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of just take a look at other municipalities, other public entities, as well as private employers,
Yeah.
just to kind of gauge
I do
where that
wonder
is.
though, like, I mean, that does, I can see the logic behind that, but the fact that like the county's overall plan is like so generous.
Yes.
You hit this relatively low out-of-pocket maximum, and then the county pays everything after that, that it becomes, less meaningful in our organization compared to what's normal.
That's correct,
in
yes,
the
that is
country.
correct.
Yeah.
What did you say our out-of-pocket is again, typically?
She said 1600.
Right, on the standard plan for an individual, it's 1,600. And that out-of-pocket maximum includes the deductible, so that's kind of what that means, and that's where the bulk of the employees are.
So, I think this is a tough question. It's just like really expensive. Like I am convinced by like some of the research I've read on it and just like the conversations I've had with like multiple people who use this medication that it's, a real game changer in a very real way for people in very profound ways, and it's very promising for the future, but it's really expensive, right? So trying to think about how to approach this in a fiscally sustainable way is not easy. I don't know. I mean, I guess, and I think the issue about whether to continue it for some period of time before it goes away completely, I also, find that idea compelling. So, I'm still sort of wrestling with this, but I appreciate the difficult financial planning that's involved in thinking about this. I hope that for the future there becomes some more affordable options for this kind of medication that could make it like widespread utilization more financially feasible for all of us. But I don't know, do other commissioners have any questions or comments on the recommendation?
So when do we have to decide upon this?
Open enrollments. Open enrollment starts November 1st. So we do need to have the plan so we can get to Blue Cross so they can have our documents and stuff ready. So, yes, ma'am.
November 1st is when. So
Open enrollment starts.
Open enrollment
Yes.
starts.
Yes, but
Yeah.
we would like to
So
have,
we need to make a decision.
if
Yes.
possible, yes, we need a drop dead
Yes.
too, yeah.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments on this, then I think we should move on to the rest of the presentation.
I think that is the.
Oh, I thought-
Oh, yeah. The rest of the presentation, again, was, I just put it in there in case.
Oh, okay, oh, that's right, that's just.
Yeah,
the
it's
appendix.
just
Thank
there
you.
for reference if
Sorry.
we needed it, that's all, sorry.
I'm with you now. Great.
So first of all, you want us to go ahead and let you know about the.
Sure.
Yes, if you agree with those recommendations, and then you can debate.
So that, and those are the increase to employee contributions of $340K, modify co-insurance for the standard plan, $55K, increase the deductible maximum out-of-pocket, which we have to do, that's legally. So those are the ones to start with.
Those are, yes.
Yeah, so essentially the first three bullets.
And the last bullet, there's no change for diabetes treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. But the only one is that fourth bullet for consideration.
I'm okay with those.
Yeah, I am too.
With those
I'm sorry.
four,
The,
1, 2, 3, and 5?
Oh, yeah,
1, 2, 3,
fine with all this
5.
one, yeah.
yes.
Okay, you're making a motion.
Do you want that as a separate motion? You want us to go ahead?
I think there's, I don't think,
Okay.
it sounds like we're all in agreement on the other recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so, but are we also in agreement on the, not covering the GLP for non-diabetes treatments?
I personally don't support excluding the purpose of weight loss. I'm interested in the other scenarios, one of the other scenarios. And I think the rationale, there's several levels of rationale, and you touched on them, Brownie, so I don't want to repeat them. But the other one, which I think is hard to calculate, but I think bears mentioning, is that promoting and encouraging weight loss is one of the most effective preventative health strategies that exists related to many chronic diseases. And I think it's hard to calculate or project what the concrete savings around that might be in years to come, but I do think it bears mentioning that as we think about this, first and foremost through a health lens, and then additionally through a fiscal lens, I think there are benefits there. So I would support us keeping it in the plan and looking at one of the other alternative scenarios that were presented.
I'm willing to consider it if we combine it with the weight management program and the 200 copay, and putting those two together, and saying for a year. I mean, because, right, just to see how this goes with no commitment to go beyond that year necessarily, and so we can have a better idea. I will make a motion that we proceed with the GLPs used potentially for weight loss, combining that with the weight management program and the 200 copay, and pilot that for this next year.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for your help walking us through this.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. And I know we had a lot of questions, so.
It was a
thank
very
you.
educational process,
Yeah.
so.
Thank
you all very much.
All right.
Thank
and,
you.
Yeah, and obviously, like, this will be something we just have to, like, really, people are going to have to look at carefully going ahead to see what we're learning from it, so, and make changes as needed. Okay, thank you all. The last item under the, number 2, old business, new business, appointment of an interim tax assessor. Haverl, could you help us get started on this?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So Eric is here, and you have before you, Commissioner, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 105-294, the Board of Commissioners of each county shall appoint a county assessor. This position is now vacant. The assessor's position is vacant, and staff has recommended that Assistant Buncombe County Tax Assessor Eric Krager is well suited for appointment as interim county assessor. This resolution is drafted at your places tonight to provide the appointment of Mr. Krager as interim tax assessor to serve on such time as a permanent assessor is recruited and appointed, or for the remainder of the unexpired term of the previous assessor, whichever occurs first.
Okay. Sorry.
So Mr. Krager is certified by North Carolina, and he has all the credentials ready to assume this role.
All right. Commissioners, further discussion on this item? All right, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the resolution as presented.
A second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
And Eric is here. Eric, did you want to say a few words or just stand so they know who you were?
Okay, Eric, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Okay. Next item under new business is a resolution, consideration of a resolution amending the Title VI plan and authorizing the chairperson to execute 1, Title VI plan review and approval document, 2, Title VI non-discrimination agreement, and 3, necessary U.S. DOT Title VI assurances for mountain mobility. And William High is back to help us out with this.
Hello again.
Hello.
I'm here tonight to request your renewal of our Title VI plan. This is an update from a 2021 Title VI plan that was approved by the board 3 years ago and a few days from now. This is a document that was provided, or the draft of this document was provided by NCDOT and has already been provisionally approved by their Office of Civil Rights. The Title VI plan's purpose is to ensure that decisions are made in accordance with non-discrimination guidelines, meaning that no person is excluded from participation in activities related to mountain mobility transportation services on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, religion, or disability. In order to implement this plan, we name a Title VI coordinator. In this case, it is our admin manager at Land of Sky, Vicki Jennings. We circulate a Title VI policy statement of commitment to the Title VI, including non-discrimination clauses in mountain mobility contracts. We process, investigate, and log all complaints of discrimination, collect mountain mobility complainant statistical data, train staff regularly in Title VI, and document any Title VI non-discrimination related activities. Finally, this plan's key components include a description of programs and services, the Title VI coordinator, contract administration, external discrimination complaints, and service area population characteristics, which is, those statistics are primarily the main update from the plan 3 years ago, as well as public involvement, staff training, and record keeping and reports. With that, we request that the board adopt the resolution amending the Title VI plan for mountain mobility and authorizing the chairperson to sign the Title VI plan review and approval document, execute a Title VI non-discrimination agreement, and execute necessary U.S. DOT Title VI assurances for mountain mobility.
Motion to adopt the resolution and proceed with the requested action.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we come to board appointments. And we got a couple. Let's start with the Mountain Community Capital Fund.
Is that a staff? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It does appear to be a staff position, and I move to approve Mason Scott, the Assistant Finance Director.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we come to the TDA. We have one appointment. We interviewed 3 candidates earlier today. How about we just go around and we'll all indicate who are we're each supporting and see who gets mentioned the most.
Himanshu Kavar.
Himanshu Kavar.
Himanshu.
I'm on you.
Himanshu Kavar.
All right. Great. Okay, before we leave the board appointments, I did want to bring up one other board appointment item. So it's kind of it's a board appointment item and also maybe a commissioner update on boards that we serve on. So it's a bridge. So as you're all aware, we've appointed the members to the STR Ad Hoc Stakeholders Committee. We've had our first 2 meetings that Commissioner Sloan and I serve on, representing the board in a participatory but non-voting role. And then we have our community stakeholders that are participating. I think the first 2 meetings have been really productive, really good conversations around the draft ordinance and kind of all of the different issues involved in the issue. You'll recall that at our last commissioner meeting, several members of the community who represent property management organizations that are active in our community, that are interested in the STR policy issue, came and said, you know, we think the ad hoc committee is a great idea, but we really wish that there was someone from sort of our part of the industry serving there, you know, kind of shared that sentiment. So I just kind of wanted to kind of like bring that back to the board. I did follow up with one of the representatives to sort of talk to them more about it and shared that, you know, I think the whole purpose of this committee is to get data, get input, get perspective. So, you know, our process that we went through was just, you know, we did all these interviews and then we, just like we just did, we kind of went around and the commissioners indicated who they wanted to promote for that. So there was like certainly no decision to not have like a company that does property management on there. And there are lots of people who own and operate STRs, and do real estate, do all this stuff. But I just wanted to kind of bring it back to the commission to see if there might be an interest in appointing someone from that property management perspective. I thought they made good points that, like, you know, these are local companies that are very focused on working in this industry. So they do bring a great deal of experience and knowledge to the issues around it. So having served on the committee for the first 2 meetings, I think it would be a great additional perspective to add to it. And one of the folks who spoke at the last meeting, Mark Baston, did apply to serve on the ad hoc committee. He is one of the senior management in Yonder, which is one of the, you know, more significant, like locally grown companies that is very focused on specifically on the STR management. So if the commission's open to it, I kind of wanted to promote the idea of, like, you know, I think they brought a good idea forward and maybe we should add one additional rep from that perspective. And yeah, any thoughts or comments on that?
I'm supportive.
Yeah, I support.
Okay, great. Well, then I will make a motion that we add Mark Baston, who was an applicant for the stakeholder group, to the committee.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. All right, that concludes the board appointments. We do have any other announcements?
What about the funeral, Brian?
Yes, could you share what you know about that, Al? Because I think you knew more about it than I did. But
Yeah, you all know we lost recently one of our former county commission chairs.
Tom Sobel from Black Mountain.
Tom
Yeah.
Sobel was, and his funeral is Friday at 1 o'clock at the Catholic Church in Swananoa. I plan to go, and I hope we can have, if anybody else from the commission can go, we can, can do it.
Thank you for sharing that. I think I am probably going to be out of town, but thank you for letting everybody know. Tom was a long-serving member of our board and a great leader for Buncombe County. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. Commissioners, any other announcements from boards and commissions that Commissioner Servon would like to share? Okay, then just a couple of announcements. The next briefing and regular meeting will be held on October 1st, with the briefing starting at 3 p.m. and the regular meeting starting at 5 p.m. Mr. Frew, is there any need for a closed session following this meeting?
Not today.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. All right, thanks, everyone.